Hello and welcome back to the Shutter Sports Refresh. We're the weekly show that brings you all of the most important news in sports so you don't have to research it yourself. I'm your host Finn Noel and I'm a little bit sick, so sorry if I sound congested, but we've got a busy week, so that doesn't matter. Let's get right into it. This week started off with a nail-biter in the men's national championship game of March Madness. This game was between Florida, who had been successful all tournament thus far, and Houston, who are just coming off a Final Four major comeback against Duke. As the game got to halftime, it was Houston in the lead, led by their dominating defense. And that lead continued to grow early in the second half. Houston found themselves up 12. But it's the national championship and teams get nervous. Although Houston was playing fantastic defense, they went dry offensively, going 4 minutes without a basket. Florida ended up creeping back into the game thanks to Houston not scoring too much and made it 62-63 for Houston with just 2 minutes left. Then it was the fifth year for Florida, Elijah Martin coming down the lane, getting fouled and making 2 free throws to give his team the lead. And after Emmanuel Sharp fumbled the game-winning attempt for Houston, that meant Florida is taking home their first national championship since 2007. Congratulations to Florida, Elijah Martin, like we mentioned, their head coach Todd Golden, and the entire team for this amazing win. Now let's stick on the topic of basketball as the regular season for the NBA just finished up yesterday and the playoff standings are set. The last game of the season went down yesterday and these games were quite important for the standings, especially in the Western Conference, so let's break down what happened. The Golden State Warriors were sitting in the elusive 6th place positioning, 1 loss away from heading into the play-in tournament, and they were facing off against the Los Angeles Clippers, who were hot, led by star Kawhi Leonard. The game would end up going to overtime, and it was the Clippers' James Harden who ended up taking over in overtime. He scored the first 5 for the Clippers in overtime, and that lead just never went away, meaning the Warriors ended up losing and were demoted to the 7th seed in the play-in tournament. What a game. Now let's get into the playoff standings. In the Eastern Conference, the number 1 seed is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who had 64 wins and the number 1 seed. They're followed closely by the Boston Celtics, who have 61 wins. In the 3rd seed, it's the New York Knicks, who haven't been great as of late but are getting back their superstar Jalen Brunson. They're playing the Detroit Pistons in a 3-6 matchup. And the matchup for the 4 and 5 seeds is the Indiana Pacers and Milwaukee Bucks. Both of those teams have won 8 of their last 10s, and that's looking to be a really entertaining series. And as for the play-in matchups, the Orlando Magic are playing the Atlanta Hawks for the 7th seed, and the loser of that game will play the winner of Chicago Bulls and Miami Heat, and the winner of that game will be the 8th seed. Moving over to the Western Conference now, the Oklahoma City Thunder are above all the rest with an insane 68 wins this year. The Houston Rockets are young and have snuck into 2nd place in the standings with 52 wins. And then we get to the next 4 spots who all have almost identical records. First up, it's the Los Angeles Lakers hosting the Minnesota Timberwolves, and that will prove to be a very exciting series. Now for the 4-5 matchup, we have the Denver Nuggets, who just fired their coach and GM 5 games before the end of the season, which is absolutely ridiculous. And they'll be playing the aforementioned Los Angeles Clippers, who, like I said, has a very hot Kawhi Leonard on their team. And as for the play-in in the Western Conference, it is the unlucky Golden State Warriors playing off against the Memphis Grizzlies, who also recently fired their coach. What's going on with the NBA and firing these coaches? And the loser of that Warriors-Grizzlies game will play the winner of the Sacramento Kings versus the Dallas Mavericks for the 8th seed. And that's all the playoff news we have for the NBA. They start up next week, so make sure to tune back in and we'll give you some recaps. Now, we don't cover golf too much on the recap, but the biggest tournament of the year just went down, the Masters, so let's cover it. And the winner of the Masters this year was a storybook one for Rory McIlroy. He finally gets his green jacket or Masters win after years and years of being super close, but just short. He had the lead going into the final hole, but he missed the putt for par, which tied him with 2nd place Justin Rose. That meant they had to replay the final hole, just the 2 of them, and Rory finished it in 3 while Rose finished it in 4, meaning Rory McIlroy won the green jacket and won the Masters. Congratulations to him on a prestigious achievement. Now that we've taken a break from playoffs to cover a little bit of golf, let's head back into the playoff time as NHL has just 2 games left in their season and the playoffs is looking good. Let's check out the standings. The Toronto Maple Leafs have clinched the number 1 seed in the Atlantic, and they will be playing the Ottawa Senators in the first round of the playoffs. The 2-3 matchup in the Eastern Conference will be the Battle of Florida, with last year's champions Florida Panthers taking on the many times champions Tampa Bay Lightning. In the Metropolitan Division, the Washington Capitals have the number 1 seed, led by Alexander Ovechkin, who, if you missed it last week, set the all-time scoring record for the NHL. We're not sure who the Capitals are playing yet, but it's between the Montreal Canadiens and the Columbus Blue Jackets. As for the 2-3 matchup, it'll be the Carolina Hurricanes and the New Jersey Devils. In the Western Conference, things are much closer standings-wise. The Winnipeg Jets are clearly in first in the Central Division, with the Dallas Stars and Colorado Avalanche taking on each other in the 2-3 matchup. In the Pacific Division, the Vegas Golden Knights are in first, and the LA Kings and Edmonton Oilers are playing in the 2-3 matchup. As for the wildcard spots, the Minnesota Wild and St. Louis Blues are both there but are closely followed by the Calgary Flames, who are 2 points behind, and there's still a game left. We'll have to see how it all shakes up next week though, so make sure you come back to the refresh for some updates. Let's move over to F1 now, where the 4th Grand Prix of the season just happened. This was the Bahrain Grand Prix, and Oscar Piastri of McLaren took home his 2nd win in this one. If you look at the driver standings for F1, Piastri is now just 3 points behind his McLaren teammate Lando Norris in the standings. As for the rest of the podium on the Bahrain Grand Prix, it was George Russell of Mercedes who finished in 2nd, and Lando Norris who finished in 3rd. The next race on F1 is Sunday, April 20th, the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, so again, tune into the refresh next week and we'll give you some updates on that. And the big events just keep on coming. UFC 314 went down this weekend. This one was in Miami, and the headliner was Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez. This fight was for the featherweight title, and Volkanovski took this by unanimous decision. Volkanovski was on a bit of a losing streak headed into this win, so he must feel great getting the title back for the 6th time. And just so everybody knows, neither of these fighters actually had the championship belt before the fight began. The former champion Ilia Topuria ended up relinquishing the belt, leading to Volkanovski and Lopez fighting to re-win the belt. So congratulations to Volkanovski on taking advantage of this strange sequence of events and becoming the new featherweight champion. And for our last piece of news this week, let's look at some Champions League soccer. The quarterfinals of the Champions League went down on Tuesday. This is the first leg of 2, which means each of these matchups will play 2 games against each other, and the total score at the end of the 2 is who moves on. The first game was between Real Madrid and Arsenal made a surprising dominant win 3-0. There was another surprising win as Inter Milan with an 88-minute goal ended up taking down Bayern Munich. And that was it for the surprising wins though, as on Wednesday, both the favorites won. PSG took down Aston Villa 3-1, and Barcelona beat Dortmund 4-0. The second leg goes down next week, so again, come back to the refresh and we will let you know. And that's all for this week's episode of the Shutter Sports Refresh. I've been your host, Finn Noel, and I hope you had a great time listening today, and I hope you learned something. You can check me out on Instagram right down here, and same thing goes for Shutter Sports Media and the writer for this episode, Lucky Roberts. Thanks for watching.